Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? Geoff Mosher, Adam Caplan. We are officially in the off season while the NFL is knee deep in its postseason. And man, what a divisional round! If you thought the wild card round was some kind of prelude to a kind of a postseason, well, you were wrong. Because the divisional round may have been the best divisional round ever in NFL history. It was that amazing. We'll talk about that a little bit. But as we get into the offseason, Adam, with the Eagles, we're going to start our kind of what we call like the review preview type of deal with the offense and defense. We'll start with offense tonight. We'll kind of review a couple of, the guys, the positions, see where they're at, their status, and then kind of what it looks like headed into the offseason. And then, of course, we'll do our next one on the defense. That'll be Wednesday morning. That'll come out on defense. But how many? So I got 3 out of the 4 correct on divisional round weekend. I picked the Rams. I did pick the Bengals, if you remember. I to beat the Titans. I picked the Chiefs, and what a game that was. But I obviously lost on 49ers Packers. How did you do? I couldn't remember all your picks.
Yeah, so week 1 I went 6-0 versus the spread. I got it all right, and then the Saturday's game's not so good. I had the Titans winning. I had Titans, I picked them to whatever they were, -3.5.
Right.
And I had the Packers -5.5, so I got them wrong. I did have the Rams. What that game was ridiculous. It's such a bad job by Sean McVay in the second half, getting so conservative. You can't blame him for the turnovers, but you could blame him for the play calling. He just
the
rule is 17 points. Yeah, not 14. When you're up 3 scores, yes, you could be conservative. He blew it. Right. He basically blew it by being conservative. Sure. He also made a terrible tactical error, leaving leaving Cam Akers in, who had fumbled, who's not a power back. Why did you trade 2 draft picks, not have Sony Michel as a finisher? Just bad coaching. I rarely criticize McVay, but he did not. I just think he lost it. I think that's where you have to lean on your assistants. They got to get in his ear.
Yep.
The running backs coach Thomas Brown, it was influential in the trade because he coached him at Georgia for 1 year. And don't have the guy in to finish. It was stupid. So that they're very lucky to have won that game. They really collapsed, and it was embarrassing how they collapsed. But they won, and the game of the year, I thought it would be going in, and it was really good. And then it became special in the fourth quarter, the Sunday night. I'll admit I was pulling for the Bills. We all know a lot of people with the Bills, and I was super pissed off that they choked it. But this is a game where not having Tre'Davious White, a top 3 corner, it got them. Tyreek Hill got them. They just didn't. They're not deep enough at corner. Chiefs had a bunch of guys get out. The Honey Badger suffered a concussion in the first quarter. That hurt them. My guy Gabe Davis crushed them 8 for 201 and 4 touchdowns. That was a Chad Hall special. Talking to the Bills, this is a guy that apparently he really pushed for.
Oh, wow. Well, he had a hell of a game.
Yeah, he had a best game of his career. And just Emmanuel Sanders is done. He barely even played.
Right.
Davis basically took his job. So that was a game. This was the game of the year. It was really a lot of great games. That Charger-Raider game, that Sunday night game in Week 18, was it? The last game of the season? Yeah, it was awesome. But the last quarter, it was a pinball machine. I was like, this is unbelievable. My head was spinning.
So the first 3 games come down to last-second kicks, and then it sets up that night game between the Bills and Chiefs. And I tell you, the only thing, if you think about the Eagles Super Bowl against the Patriots, the one the Eagles won.
Yeah,
that was some excellent quarterbacking, obviously, with some really big plays, and I would say against some defenses that were trying their hardest, but the offenses were just amazing that day. Both the Eagles with Nick Foles and Tom Brady, right? This game was as great as it was, and these 2 quarterbacks are just on a different level. They're like inhuman.
Yeah.
Josh Allen throws the game winning, what was perceived to be the game winning touchdown because the cornerback Mike Hilton, he falls. Like, how do you fall?
Mike Hughes,
Mike Hughes, yeah. You can't fall when you're playing in the.
He got juked. He got juked. And by the way, this has never happened before. 2 things that happened with these 2 quarterbacks. First of all, first time in NFL history, 2 quarterbacks who threw 5 touchdown passes the week before played each other. And by the way, most touchdown passes in the span of 2 weeks, 17 touchdown passes combined for Josh Allen and Mahomes, just ridiculous. And they actually had, I guess they had, because Mahomes had a rushing touchdown. Mahomes is actually, he was explosive. They needed him to run a little bit.
Yeah.
he did. But it was fun. Look, it was a great weekend of football. You're right. The wild card games were not very exciting. And then the overtime is because there's no ties in overtime anymore because we're in the playoffs.
Right.
You could just see it, and then Tyreek Hill, just when you think they've got him corralled, he makes the return, all the long touchdown. It was just it was just incredible, and it was just the emotion and the faces, and just this is why we love football. It's just you'd said something to me before we started, and you're absolutely right. Is how far away the Eagles are from being a good football team. They're very
Yeah.
average. I
Yeah.
give them credit; they overachieved, but they have so far to go. And I understand that these are elite quarterbacks. These are the best of the best, to the best. Probably by the time they've done in NFL history, just Mahomes is already there. Allen just got there. But seeing elite quarterback play just makes you shake your head. You just can't believe what you're seeing. It was,
No,
man,
no. The
unbelievable.
AFC with Mahomes, Allen, and Joe Burrow, who's still
Oh,
alive here and has
yeah,
a chance to, start his legacy.
right.
It
Right.
feels like it's a little bit of a throwback to when the AFC had Manning, Brady, and
Mm,
pick your third between. It could be Ben Roethlisberger, who's got 2 rings. It could be, Rivers, who was always in the playoffs, but not necessarily a great playoff quarterback. But still, I mean, you had just great quarterbacks. And the NFC, the best one's out. Aaron Rodgers didn't play very well.
yeah.
Special teams does this team in
Oh,
every. I still think about the Seattle NFC Championship game that they had won until the third string tight end botched the onside kick. And then, the Seahawks get the ball, they score, then they score an overtime over. It's amazing how this team, that franchise gets beset. But Aaron Rodgers didn't play well either.
he
So,
didn't. But one more
so
thing, more bad coaching. Matt LaFleur is so conservative. I don't know
yeah.
why in the first half. I have no idea. It's like you've got one of the best quarterbacks in NFL history. They go down and score in the first series. I'm like, great. That was great. They were throwing to score. You lose Dylan, the running back, to a rib injury or something in the first quarter. He doesn't return,
Mm-hmm.
and then you get conservative. I mean, what are you doing, man? You've got an advantage. You've got the Niners are down the starting corner. You need to know this. Like if you're before he had to know it, and he gets conservative. He also is another one that basically cost the team the game. I didn't like the way he coached. Plus, obviously, special teams to get a punt blocked and a kick blocked is embarrassing. And they're how about Kyle Shanahan before we get started here? Kyle
Yeah.
Shanahan said in his press conference
Uh-huh.
Saturday night, he goes, "We knew how much they were struggling." He didn't say bad. He said, "We knew they were struggling in the second half," and he said he thought special teams could win them the game. Is that unbelievable?
That's unbelievable. That is I guess when you're playing the Packers in the playoffs, it's always in the back of your mind that special teams are going to
Yeah.
help win the game for you. But yeah,
Jeez.
that's who would have thought that. And by the way, credit to them because they've had such a difficult season with injuries, and I give Jimmy Garoppolo a lot of credit. He's had
Yeah.
Trey Lance looking over his shoulder,
Yep.
and it's not like
Yep.
he played great, but there are stretches of games where he has up until that Packers game where he had to play really well and did, and then he would throw like your requisite Jimmy Garoppolo pick, but then he would come right back and make some good throws,
Yeah.
and now he's one of the last four quarterbacks left, which is real. It's amazing, and
They make it
he's
up.
just helping
Yeah.
him and Gabe Davis have probably help themselves out as far as their next employer as much as anybody in the playoffs. So
Well, Gabe Davis ain't going anywhere. He'll be
I thought he was a
starting.
free agent.
No. He was
Oh,
drafted.
my fault. My fault. I
No,
thought he
no,
was.
no.
Well, if he's under a
They love
contract, he's
him.
gonna.
They
Yeah.
love him. It's just that in fact, they told me he backed up every position. He actually sets, like he knows each. They have four positions: X, Y, Z, and
Hmm.
F. He knows them more than all of their receivers do. So he'll help them get lined up in practice. It's
Sure.
crazy. It's so
Well, then
smart.
he just earned himself because he's 3 years in, so he's going to get a
Yeah.
nice contract out of that. You imagine.
Yep.
So good for him.
Yeah. True.
All right. Listen, our interview, our ITB TV with Greg Cosell last week, to me is a must watch. I've already seen people kind of taking some of the the sound from it or tweeting some of his analysis, and it was on the whole team, but it was Jalen Hurts centric. He gave you a lot of great tape breakdown, tells you everything the tape has said about what Jalen Hurts does, what he needs to do better, what he does well, and then we kind of put it in the perspective of, well, how do you build now an offense next year with him? Are you building it around him as kind of like a running quarterback like the Ravens do, or are you trying to open it up into a true West Coast offense with a quarterback who can run, sort of like what the Bills do with Josh Allen? But as you've said many times, I mean, there's a big difference between Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen. But nonetheless, you can still build an offense around that if you think that your quarterback can pass well, and then add the QB runs in like the Bills do.
So what we had reported when they got hired, from scheme, they were going to run more of an old school West Coast offense, a timing offense, and I think what happened was, I know some people felt like this is what happened. No, I can't disagree. I think this is exactly what happened. Right when Sirianni saw that it was not going to work, he pulled the plug on it and said, "Okay, what's it take to win here?" And that's really good coaching. He said, "Okay, we have a dual threat quarterback. We're gonna get him, use his legs, and we're gonna coach him hard. We're gonna coach him up, and there, as we know, there were some moments of really good quarterback play. The Denver game, and we hung in there. But this is not they're not running the off. They didn't run the offense that they wanted to. So the whole offseason, we as we talked about on our show last week, we reviewed the press conference from the GM and the head coach. If they are true to the word that he's definitely the quarterback, then now they could expand it. They could give him more because he's going to work hard. It means a lot to him. And I'm very anxious to see what they do when we get to OTAs. Again, this is assuming that he's the starting quarterback. He's taken majority of the ones. When we get there, the post-draft in May and June, I'm very interested to see what they do with him.
Absolutely. And of course, we're interested to see how they build the team up with all of their assets around him and right. how they go forward. A lot of their moves, I think, will dictate and give a tell onto what they plan to do in 2022 season, I would imagine. Sure. So, yeah, make sure you're checking it out with Greg Cosell. It was a phenomenal interview. Greg did great, and we're working on getting Greg to be back with us and with more content. Last year, he did about 5 or 6 shows with us right leading up to the draft, and we're trying to get him on a little bit sooner this year into maybe even into free agency. So we'll keep you updated with that. Of course, we have InsideTheBirds.com with a lot of content, so please make sure you're checking it out every single day. We've got something up, whether it's me, whether it's Adam and his final power rankings, which will be coming out, and Andrew DeCecco doing a great job as well. InsideTheBirds.com. Subscribe to the RSS. Get all your content for free right to your reader. And please continue to give us, I'm really thankful. Adam is too. We've gotten a lot of great 5-star reviews on Apple. I appreciate that. Those who are doing that and leaving a question, we have answered many of them. We'll get to some more as these podcasts go on. We're going to try to answer more questions on each podcast as we go about in the off season. So appreciate that. But please continue to leave the 5-star reviews for us on Apple if you're an Apple user. All right, we'll get into the offense first. We want to remind everybody, as we always do, make sure you're checking out our friends at Deal Dash, the online shopping platform that's actually fun. Deal Dash is the longest running penny auction website and app around. And if that sounds too good to be true, I get it, because we've seen a car go for $900, a brand new TV for less than $2. That's right. You're just bidding pennies. You can win things for mere pennies. You can't get anything anywhere anymore for just pennies this good. So don't be a loser. Stop paying full retail price for things you want and get on Deal Dash. Go to dealdash.com or download the app. And when you register, enter the promo code ITB for a special offer for some bonus free bids. All right, Adam, we'll do our offensive review / preview here for 2022. We talked a little bit about Jalen Hurts. So he's obviously going to be entering year 3, and that's something we don't talk about a lot because the old, let's bring back Jalen Hurts and see what he does in year 2. And if he's improved, it becomes a really tricky situation after next year, because if he does improve, but not significantly, he may go into that offseason and you'd normally maybe want to give an extension. And you're like, do I give this guy like $30 million or whatever it is if I don't really believe he's going to take me, to at least competing for a Super Bowl for the next 3 or 4 or 5 years. So next year becomes a very interesting year for him.
It's amazing. They have the second lowest cash commitment. Quarterbacks just under $2.1 million. There's some dead money from Flacco's. Remember, we reported this when Flacco got his deal. I remember you go, let me guess, dummy years. I'm like, yes, they have dummy years.
Always.
So I was just looking up what we reported. I still have the contract. So yeah, there's 2 years of dummy years. It's comical.
So they'll be paying Joe Flacco a little bit of money next year.
Well, they don't
on the books. I know.
Yeah, it's just dead. It's just dead money. It's signing bonus proration. It's nothing to do with cash. They don't own that money. It's just proration. So no, the cost control is ridiculous. So Minshew's signed through this season coming
Mm-hmm.
up. So is Reed Sinnett. So Minshew, after his contract expires, will be an unrestricted free agent. So they've got 3 under contract. We know they're going to add another quarterback at some point. What
Mm-hmm.
for training camp, whatever the case may be, they'll add somebody for training camp. And again, it doesn't just because they've said that Hurts is the quarterback does not mean in any case that they won't draft a quarterback in the first round. I doubt they'll do that.
I doubt it
Where they're
too,
at
but
unless
yeah,
they trade up.
right.
But I just get the feeling. I don't know about you. I don't get the feeling that they're super high on this class.
I don't get that sense. Not from anything through them. Just every year when the NFL right around this time when you start getting into the NFL draft, you'll know about those studs, those Joe Burrows, those the can't miss guys, right? The Andrew Lucks. I mean, every year, guys are going to go in the top 5 because they merit that because they had that kind of college career. And this group, which really the top 3 guys are, Kenny Pickett is probably going to be the lead guy. Matt Corral is from Ole Miss, right in the mix, and then Malik Willis from Liberty. All those 3 guys, you're just not hearing from either the Daniel Jeremiahs of the world or even some of the teams that I speak to that they're bona fide, no doubt about a top 5, top 10. Doesn't mean they won't because you know how it is with quarterbacks, but I have to say it's not. I haven't gotten that people dislike these quarterbacks. They're just not. None stands out like a can't miss prospect.
So I want to tell me they don't even have a pecking order. They don't think that Pickett's they like him, this one team, but they don't see him as a bona fide. He probably will go in the upper half of the first round because quarterbacks always get pushed up. I'll be at the Senior Bowl next week. So next, actually Monday, a week from today, I'll actually be in Mobile. But and we'll have his measurements. We'll go over that. We'll see. I don't know if I'll be doing a show from there because our schedule's going to change that week. We're doing fewer shows per week, and that'll start our off-season schedule. But I'll have the hand size, and that's going to be a problem for teams. There's no question about it. He's a really good athlete,
right?
Good, not a great arm, good size, high character kid. But we'll see. This team told me that they like those guys you mentioned. They don't have a pecking order yet because they're not. There's not. Sometimes you go in, okay, Sam Bradford's the number 1 pick overall. It's either Goff or Wentz. Everybody knew this in February. But this year, you're right. There's just not any one guy you go, oh my gosh, this guy's going to be a stud. Nobody sees him that way.
I tell you, though, this could be an interesting way in that teams that are good, that need a quarterback, that aren't picking high, might win. I'm talking like a Steelers or a Saints. It'll be interesting to see what the Titans do now that once again they have not made it very far with Ryan Tannehill, right? It'll be interesting to see what they do. Those kind of teams might find it luxurious to be able to get a Pickett, a Corral, or a Willis lower half of the first round, kind of like the way Packers got Rodgers. Now, I'm not saying these guys are going to be Aaron Rodgers, but those are well-built teams already. They've got strengths. That's why they're not, picking in the top 10 of the draft. So they may have the ability to already have a veteran quarterback in place and then transition to one of these guys either some point in the season or if one of these guys that they pick winds up just, picking it up from the get-go and you say, well, I got a strong enough running game and defense that I can support this guy. Like the Steelers did when they picked Ben Roethlisberger, right? He wasn't ready to be an elite quarterback, but he had such a good defense and running game that they were able to withstand some of his rookie mistakes. And by year 2, he was a Super Bowl champ. So you wonder if this will benefit some of those teams that are good, just need a quarterback, and those guys fall to them.
Well, okay, let's talk about Tannehill for just a second, just to give you an idea of how what you said could come into play. He is signed through 2023. However, the guaranteed money in his contract expires after this coming season. The $29 million is fully guaranteed. They did the term that the Titans did with Tannehill's agent is they did it what's called an advance guarantee. This is what the Eagles did with Brandon Brooks. If he's on the roster, like let's say in 2021 March, his base salary the next year is fully guaranteed. So there was an advance guarantee in his contract. So he's only fully guaranteed through this coming season, $29 million. He makes such a great point because they're picking late in the 20s. We have no idea where these guys. It's way too early to have any idea who's going where and how early in the first round or second round. I couldn't tell you about Corral. I have no idea where he's going.
Right there, you go. Yeah,
no
idea. I mean, we have to wait for the Senior Bowl.
Teams have no idea. They have no idea yet. No idea.
Is Carson Strong going to the? I forgot to mention his name.
I have no idea where he's going.
Okay, I know. I meant, is he going to the Senior Bowl? Do you not know if he's going there yet?
Yes, they're all going. All of them are going.
Okay, that's great. I mean, you're gonna have an awesome time at the Senior
Can't
Bowl.
wait. I know, because when I saw the list, and I was on a call, the 33rd team call. Joe Banner, Mike Tannenbaum's website. Jim Nagy was on there. He said they're all going. Now, obviously, as long as they don't back out, they're all going. All the senior quarterbacks, and
right.
Yeah, but I don't. Crowd. Nobody has any idea. I get so many different opinions. This is the most over I can remember in years where not only is there not a consensus number one, though I still think Pickett will go one, but there's no lock there. Teams are so all over the map on these quarterbacks, and as you said, and teams need quarterbacks. They're going to get drafted earlier than they should. That's what happens. I use the Mark Sanchez rule, the Mitch Trubisky rule. Just when you think a guy shouldn't go in the first round, he goes in the top 10.
True. There you go. I brought up Carson Strong just because I've spoke to two different teams that like him. They just, obviously there's a medical concern with him. I think he's had a knee, some knee history issues. He's not the most mobile guy in the world, but they like his arm. So, which is, Davis Mills is a guy that people liked the way he threw the ball, but they didn't like that he was kind of a, not as mobile as you're looking for. It
was medical. It's all medical.
And medicals, right? Medicals.
Medical dropped him out of stuff. I'm telling you right now, he would have gone the second round.
He looked pretty good this year at times.
I mean, he played well, sometimes, right. But he had two issues. One of them you talked about, not the most mobile guy, but the big one, and that crushed him, is the surgically repaired knee.
Right.
There were some teams that I talked to, they weren't sure if he'd get through two contracts because of that knee. That's what happens, man. Medical, Jay Ajayi, I remember reporting that he had bone on bone. He should have gone second or third round. He was so gifted.
Right.
Teams were so concerned. Was it fifth round, maybe? Does that sound right? Fifth round?
Yeah, he was a fifth round pick.
Right. So, and boy, was he talented. But unfortunately, he had a short career. He actually, I think, officially retired, unofficially retired. He was interviewed somewhere. He was talking about he's not playing anymore. So, I think was he playing soccer? Did I see that a year ago?
Wouldn't surprise me. Right? He's from England, I believe.
Yeah. But no, good point. No, I love that point about Tannehill because look, he's another highly programmed quarterback. He's not a in terms of processing. He's focused in on that one guy, and if the pocket breaks down, man, he tends to struggle a little bit. But good athlete and pretty gifted passer, throws a nice ball, but it's the processing part which will throw him off a little bit.
Yeah. No, it'll be fascinating. Really looking forward to the Senior Bowl and seeing how those guys kind of perform.
Can't wait.
What do you think? I think the Gardner Minshew conversation is really fascinating because here's a guy who's already admitted that he did go in to see the coach and said, I would like, what do I have to do to be the starter?
Sure.
And, they told him there's really nothing you can do. Jalen Hurts is our guy. And he said, all right, I respect your honesty, but that he wants to be a starter and he's got a feistiness about him. If the Eagles draft a quarterback, whether it's, like you just said, second, third, fourth, whatever, right? Just someone to bring in, compete with Jalen, maybe be the future if he's better. Then does Gardner goes back to being the number 3? And how does he feel about that? Is that even good for the Eagles?
No, he would be
his 2. Value. Yeah. He may have good value right now for what he did going in against the Jets. Like, if
he would definitely be the 2. Hang on, he'd be the 2 if unless they draft a quarterback in the first round. Their thinking would be Minshew would be the 2 unless the kid, whoever they drafted, would beat him out. Now, I'm going to throw this back at you. If they drafted a quarterback in the first round, would you be done believing anything they say? Someone ran this by me because I guess all the media is buying this. A lot of I get it. Look, they said what they said. Would you finally wave your hands up and never believe anything they say?
Are you assuming that I ever do believe what they say?
Oh, sorry.
No, well, but I think that would definitely. I mean, I don't know how they would. I don't know how they would get around it after basically being asked 5 different ways. What are you going to do with your assets, and what are you doing with your quarterback? And each time the answer was, Jalen Hurts is our quarterback, and we got to. Howie specifically said verbatim, we've got to build around him. So and he was asked that in the context of those picks. So if they use one of those picks to draft a quarterback in the first round, which again, I don't think that's likely. It sounds like you don't think that's likely too, but you always got to keep the door open for it. Then obviously it'll be fascinating to hear what they say about that.
I mean, I'm not saying they don't.
Are they going to try to now be the franchise that says it's okay to draft a quarterback in the first round to be a backup quarterback?
Oh God, I'm still kind of. I'll just never forget it. Just like I am right now. I'm in my alternate studio, and I don't have the sound up on my TV, and I'm looking at my laptop and Twitter. I look at my phone, and I remember it was like exclamation points or something. What is this about? And I look over to my TV, and I'm like, oh my God, oh my! I just was like, what? You've known me long enough. I'm rarely surprised by anything. I was in shock. I was like, how do you sell this? I still don't believe it. I still don't believe that. I mean, I understand they drafted him to be a backup, but I've never heard of a team drafting a backup in the second round. We know because of circumstances, Hershey's the starter, and they say he'll be the starter in 2022. But it was let me ask you this one: in all your ego moments of being surprised, things have happened that you go, oh my gosh, how did that happen? Was that one of the biggest surprises you can remember covering the team?
Oh, there've been a lot of them, but yeah.
Anything come to mind? Others like anything off the top of your head?
surprises? I mean,
Vic. Oh, Vic.
signing Michael Vick, trading
Where were
Donovan
you?
on Easter.
Where were you for Vic? Press box like I was.
Yeah, because it happened during a preseason game, so I was in the press box when.
Yep, I was right there, and we're scrambling. The word was at half. Well, no, actually, I remember. This is a great. Wait, was it me and Billy or me and you? In 2018, we did for WIP. We did the one of the remotes, and AJ Feely did it with us, and he told us a story. Andy Reid broke them the news that they were signing Michael Vick, and AJ goes, "Well, there you go. I probably won't be on the team much longer." Can you imagine finding out as a player?
That's amazing. Other surprising moments that pop into my head,
shocking, like really shocking.
that also involve Michael Vick. Is that remember when Cobb got hurt that first year, 2010? Then he got the concussion, and Andy said he's still our quarterback. And like 3 days later, I think the Eagles, the next game was on a Monday night or something. I forget what the deal was, but there was like an extra day off. And then I think Boyko sent out a text to the beat writer saying, "Hey, Andy wants to do a conference call." And we're like, "What? Why? Why was he doing a conference call on a day off?" It was like Wednesday because they were playing Monday night, right? So they don't go back till Thursday. So Wednesday, Andy holds a conference call and he says, "Yeah, we're going to go ahead with Michael Vick." And it was a shock at the time because here's what happened. Now I exactly remember it.
Okay.
Cobb got hurt. He was out for a couple of weeks, if you remember. And Vic came in and won the next two games, right? He beat Jacksonville, and then he beat Detroit, I think, were the two games. And then Cobb was ready to come back, and Andy had said the whole time, Kevin's our starter. Kevin's our starter. Michael's our backup. And then the following game was a Monday night. So Andy does his press conference on a Wednesday, and he says, "Change my mind. We're going with Michael Vick for the rest of the way."
Was that okay? The McNabb trade. Okay, so here's what I remember. I told the story a couple years ago, but it's comical because I know Eagles, and I gotta bust Banner's chops. Actually, I'm gonna ask him this because there's been this narrative, and maybe there's truth to it. I don't know, but I know it's been out there in the media that the Eagles would purposely make transactions on holidays or whatever the hell. So this one was the McNabb trade to what? Who did he get to?
Washington. That was the surprise. Not that Donovan was traded because we all saw it coming, but that they would trade him to Washington, and that it had to happen on Easter.
That was at Easter. Yes,
it was on Easter Sunday.
Well, here's what happened. I was down the shore. I was a contributor to Comcast Sportsnet Philly, and they said, "Could you come in?" I'm like, I couldn't afford to say no. I was such a scrub. I'm like, I got to take any work I get. And I was like, "Okay, I'll do it." But I said, I might be Rob Kastner. I said to Rob, I think it was Rob. I said, "Listen, dude, I haven't shaven.
Right.
I'm not. I have no. I wear like a polo shirt. It's like I look terrible." And I remember thinking I shouldn't do this because they would not allow me to go home to change because it was breaking news.
Right.
And so, what do you know about it? I said, I told him, I said, "Here's what I know about the background on it." And as a reporter, you gotta think fast. As I learned at ESPN, man, news changes very fast, and it happens. But as you know, it happened on Easter, and there was this conspiracy theory that the Eagles purposely did the trade, like they wouldn't wait; they had to do it on a holiday.
I don't know. All I know is it was not the most convenient time for
Where were
for
you?
the
Yeah, where
writers.
were you that day?
I
Do you
was with
remember?
my I think we usually go to my wife's aunt's place back then, aunt's house
Okay.
in Delaware, and I
Okay.
think we were just about to leave, and I was like, "Oh, fuck, you know what?"
Yeah,
It's
I
like
get. I know. So was I.
so the only other times I can really say shocked was to get the
Yeah.
text to say that they signed Namdi. That was amazing. Didn't see that happening. Um,
You know what happened that day? Remember?
yes.
It was they got Hunter
Because it
Pence from the
was, yeah, everybody was
Astros.
saying it was going to be, yeah, the Jets and Cowboys. That it was on TV. Namdi's making his mind up
Yep.
and all this and all that.
Oh,
Yeah,
and Rex Ryan was pissed. But no, the other story was that the Phillies trade for Hunter Pence later that day. Maybe
I
is that
believe that
right?
was that day. Yeah, yeah,
And
that
it
was a
was
good one.
unbelievable sports day. Yeah, I was on the Fanatic that day with Tom Byrne. We were at a remote at one of the casinos, and our hair was on fire. Like it was just the most amazing thing to see two major transactions. Now, who knew Osabal would be so bad? So now
Hmm.
an actor, by the way,
Right.
apparently a decent actor, but that didn't work. That's when they were. It was coming out of lockout, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. I believe it was. Yep.
Yeah, and that was Vince Young and
Yeah,
who,
so now that we've gone through that, I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm kind of used to like really crazy surprises with
yeah,
this team. There's a few others that
yeah.
could pop into my head at
I'm
any
just
minute now.
curious. I love the retrospect.
Deshaun getting
Huh?
released. I knew Deshaun was going to get cut. Obviously, had
Yeah,
been reporting on that, but
yeah.
the way it happened with the whole the story about him and his gang affiliation and all
Yeah,
that was out of this world as
that was
well.
bad.
Yeah.
That was bad. It was made out back
Obviously,
then.
Chip Kelly when he got fired
Yeah.
like that abruptly, that was pretty shocking.
On a Tuesday, right? Was it a
On it,
Tuesday?
yes. I was driving through New York City. I think I was
Or
coming
was
back
I?
I was on the BQE, man, and my wife's like, "You cannot be texting and driving on the
BQ.
BQE." I was like, "You're probably right about that. I'm gonna have to pull over."
So you did pull. Yes. So what
Oh yeah, I
I had the
pulled
story.
over.
I had the story written for weeks,
Uh-huh.
and I was told it would happen after the season. And Jeffrey Lurie got so pissed off at his line that he used to the team was he wanted to take the building back because Chip alienated so many people
Mhm.
that it got away from Jeffrey. He just was not aware of how Chip alienated the whole thing until it was too late, and he wouldn't even wait. He wanted him out. Whatever excuse they use, we want to get a head start. Whatever the hell the real story is, he wanted him out. And I just remember being so pissed off because they sent it. They didn't leak it. They just announced it through a press release. And I remember like punching my hand, like, "Are you serious?" I mean,
Yeah.
I was like, "Come on, man! Really? On a Tuesday,
Yeah. Yeah.
week
Listen, the more I think
17?"
about this, the Eagles drafting a quarterback in the first round this year, I'm not sure it cracks the top 5, you know.
No, but no, but my point is that getting back to that before we move to running back.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I would be very surprised because to put this out there, that Hurts is your guy. I understand, like drafting a quarterback theoretically in the first round would not be a surprise
Mhm.
had they not said this. They were so hell bent that he's the guy. You
Mhm.
can't say that because the first round quarterbacks more often than not they're going to take over. I don't know. They got three
It's a
first
bad
round
look
picks.
too. I think it's a bad look to your fan base. It's a bad look to your locker room if you're lying that much and that obviously about it.
I hate to call it lying, but again, it doesn't preclude them from drafting a quarterback. But the way that Sirianni was almost glib about it, like it's almost like, "Oh, of course he's our starter," and he went into what he said. I was like,
Mhm.
that's why when this thing, when I listened to it, was it Wednesday? I was like, I gotta listen. I can't. I read it for the transcript to make sure I got it right.
Right.
I just like, this is unbelievable. I cannot believe they said this. I was like, wow. It's one thing to say it, but the way that he said it was like, this is just not what I was expecting. I'm like, all right, there you go. You put it out there, Sirianni. Okay.
Right. Right. So again, if they draft a guy in the second round, let's say Willis falls to the second round, they draft him.
Uh-huh.
He's got a big arm. He's got some development going on. Or if they draft maybe a Carson Strong, if he's there, he's another guy who has a pretty good arm, big arm.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, obviously not like Josh Allen, but good arm.
Yeah. No one does.
And you have Gardner Minshew, and Minshew's your number 2 for now, but you fully expect that a guy that you draft in the second round is going to be able to overtake Minshew. Then you kind of hurt the trade value that you had gotten for Minshew. So I feel
I
like
don't buy
his
that.
status. You
Actually, I
don't
don't buy
think
that at
so?
all. No, because Gardner Minshew is a good processor. I know he doesn't have a very good arm. This
Hmm.
guy, he got 6 or 7 AFC Rookie of the Week awards in 2019.
Hmm.
So look, the Jets game, the arm, it's got to be better, but he was pretty accurate that game.
Yeah.
It's all about functionality and accuracy and processing as a backup, that where you feel comfortable putting the guy in.
Mm-hmm.
To think any of these rookies are going to be ready. Hurts wasn't ready as a rookie. Most second round picks,
Right.
you're never thinking like in year one you're going to play him.
But
Now,
your
obviously,
circumstances may like it may be fine if you're not doing so well next year and you want to move ahead with some guy you draft. I'm just saying, like, I don't know what you do with
you can't go
Minshew
in
at that
thinking
point.
that though. You can't think that guy's
No,
going to
I
take
know,
Minshew.
I know,
Yeah,
I
that's
know.
what I mean.
I guess I'm saying, like, if they draft a quarterback in the second or third round, then to me it would signal that Minshew's going to, probably be gone by the end of next year,
Yeah,
by
of
the
course.
trade
Yeah,
deadline.
yes, I would
Yes,
agree.
that's what I
I would
was
agree.
getting at. Okay,
Right. I was no, because they definitely, it would have to take something Herculean for for a rookie quarterback that's not a first round to beat out Minshew for the number 2 job. Now, I
right.
also wouldn't rule out him being traded, Minshew. If they get, because you would think theoretically they're not going to sign him after 2022.
Mm-hmm.
I know he wants to compete for a starting job, and come on, he's an excellent backup. There's some traits that you like, but he's in the Taylor Heineke situation. You kind of know what he is.
Yes, good point.
So,
all right. Want to move on to running backs? I don't know much to say about Reed Sinnett other than he's a guy on the roster. So,
yeah, correct. And he won't be most likely in the fall. So,
right. This is a fascinating position, running back, because Miles Sanders, I think you and I agree he's not going to get an extent. I can't imagine he's going to get an extension this year. I think it's a little risky. You might as well let him play it out and give yourself a year to decide what you want to do with him. Kenny Gainwell, I think you and I would both say is a guy that you would like to see at least as the number 2 running back next year. He's shown productivity every time he was used pretty much. So there's no reason not to think that he can have an expanded role next year, right?
Question for you would be in response to that. So they've got him on a contract for 3 this season and then 2 more. So he signed through 2024. He's got to put weight on. I know that. Got to block a little better. He's got a lot of great football ahead of him if they use him correctly. They need to use him more in the pass game, screen game. He's got a lot of ability. He showed the shocking thing about him when I talk about him needing to bulk up. When he was like a quasi goal line back in like the first half. It was weird. Like he would just burrow in. He's only 200 pounds, but he needs to put more weight on. Now, here's a question I have. Huntley's on the roster, by the way. They re-signed him for 2 years. Remember, they signed him off the practice squad. They didn't elevate him. That was done on purpose. So they gave him very, very low guarantee. They gave him a very small signing bonus, so it's inconsequential. But he doesn't count against the cap anyway because it's the offseason roster. He's part of. He's not part of the top 51. So, all right, Boston Scott. I would assume they're going to low tender him.
Yes, you got to bring him back on a 1-year RFA tender.
Correct. Now, here's the question: do you bring back Jordan Howard?
I signed Jordan Howard to a 1-year veteran minimum deal, have him compete in camp, but I've already got Sanders, Gainwell, Scott, Huntley, and I'm probably going to draft a kid, maybe a kid with some like Howard with some size to him.
Okay.
Yeah, not like a first or second round, but I'm going to draft a kid sometime on day 2 or day 3, most likely day 3. And then just have Jordan Howard compete, and I'm not trying to downplay Jordan Howard's significance, but again, if I'm going to be a run heavy team, I'm looking for a bigger role this year out of Gainwell. I've got Miles Sanders. I've got Boston Scott. I'm going to draft. I'm going to re-sign Jordan Howard in case he beats somebody out. But I'm not like giving this guy a 3-year deal by any stretch of the means. I'm not giving him a 2-year deal. I'm just signing him for the veteran minimum. If somebody else wants to offer him more, thank you, Jordan Howard. You've been great, but you can find another Jordan Howard.
Okay,
do you disagree or?
No, I agree. He
was a 6th-round pick, right? Jordan Howard was a 6th-round pick, I think.
Signed to what's called the old school make good contract. It means for him to make money, he's got to be on the opening day roster.
Right.
He's a 1-year deal anywhere he goes and very little guaranteed money at all. I like the thought process. That's a good. I would certainly, if you and I were on the show, I would definitely bring in another running back. You can't. Sanders has a major injury history. Gainwell's a smaller guy. He's got to get bigger. Huntley's just a guy. He's got juice. He's got some explosion, but he hasn't proven anything. They did sign him for 2023, so they'll get a good look at him if they want to keep him after the season. Boston Scott's restricted free agent. I expect a low tender, and Howard's up. So yeah, I wouldn't mind them. I could certainly see them bringing in another back. I agree with it.
Yeah, and actually probably somebody with a little bit more juice than even Jordan Howard. I mean, if you're going to
Oh yeah,
be if you're worried about Sanders staying healthy, which is fine, that's certainly a good fear, and you don't know that you want Kenny Gainwell leading or Boston Scott leading your ground game, then a guy like who the Giants have, what was his name, Booker, who
Devontae Booker, he looked
yeah,
good. Good year.
yeah,
That's a
somebody like
perfect
that.
guy.
There's going to be
Yeah,
a bunch of 1 year. There's going to be a bunch of running backs that you can bring in on a 1 year deal who may even have a better history of staying healthy than Jordan Howard does. So, but again, I don't mind bringing back Jordan Howard on a 1 year deal
no,
either,
I agree.
and having him be
Yeah.
there. So, but that's really about it. I mean, that's who he is and what he is to this team right now. And of
Mhm.
course, as we learn more about what their plans are offensively going into next year, we might be able to answer those questions about him and
True.
his status a little
True.
bit more. Also, all right. Well, let's get to wide receiver. And are you done with running backs?
I'm done. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. First, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code ITB to get 56-1 odds on any NFL team. Bet just $5 and win 280 in free bets if your team wins. That's using promo code ITB for 56-1 odds at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. You got to be 21 or older. Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Restrictions apply. In partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Wide receiver. All right. This is an interesting group. All right. So first, before we do anything, Adam, I got what's the term you use sometimes when the bloggers run wild with something that
Oh gosh. Oh my.
yeah.
These. I don't know what you call them. They're like these kids in high school or junior high who
Mm-hmm.
want to get. I had a guy contact me, wanted me to follow him so he can get clicks. I
Right.
just deleted it. I mean, he's one of these kids, these kids on like Twitter or Instagram. And like I've gone after these guys for years because they don't know how to quote. They're not they're fake reporters.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
don't try to
You
be
just wish that they
responsible.
would get it right. And
You just get
so
it right. And I
in
would
the
help these guys. I'd be happy to help if you're going to be professional.
sure, reach
When they
out to
can't,
me,
they don't.
Yeah.
So with you, yeah, I wasn't even aware of this until I saw it on our Facebook board. I was like, that's not what you said.
I
Oh,
know. So let me
good.
just repeat. It's analysis. If the Eagles bring in a wide receiver, we were talking about guys like DJ Chark or a veteran like Allen Robinson, whatever, right?
Yeah.
That gives them 3 wide receivers between Devontae Smith, the veteran, and Quez Watkins, who has already been called the number 2 receiver, who has a chance then to be the number 3 if they bring in a good veteran. That would push Rager to number 4. All right. On most teams, your 4th and 5th receivers are just special teamers. They're backups. They don't play very much. So the point I was trying to make is if you're going to make the moves and as a team, you're thinking Jalen Reagor is now your 4th receiver. And if you're Jalen Reagor and you're looking at the situation as I'm the 4th receiver when I'm 2 years removed from being a number 1 pick, you may both decide, well, let's figure this thing out. Maybe there's a new scenario or better scenario for me. I'm not saying anybody asked to be traded. I'm not saying the team is giving vibes of that. I'm just doing the analysis of where a guy was on the depth chart at the beginning of this year compared to the beginning of next year. You go from number 2 to number 4. So, and does the team want to pay somebody that to be a backup receiver? It's not like
True.
JJ Arcega-Whiteside, who was a 2nd-round pick and very cost efficient to keep around, and who, by the way, is a good special teams player. So that was just analysis. Okay, we'll see what happens going forward. Did that make
Yep.
sense to you when I
Yeah.
was? Yeah,
I mean, it's pretty clear when you said it, but these kids they're trying to get followers,
mm-hmm.
and you can't do that. In fact, the thing is, it's like whether you're watching this on YouTube or you're listening on pod version, you could just rewind it. I've mentioned this before. When I started, I was one of the first bloggers on the internet in 2000 for a company called fanball.com. I specialize in transcribing press conferences. I never got them
Mm-hmm.
wrong because I just went by what they said. Then I would
Right.
analyze it, though. You're
Right.
totally free to analyze anything you want. It's whatever you say. Hey,
Right.
you said this. Okay, what is he? I'll say, hey, this is the way I see it. If you're a good blogger and you really know the Eagles, you should take what any reporter puts out there, whether it's an opinion or
Sure.
report, but you should be able to know what it's a report. Like we're
Right.
hearing this.
Right.
Okay.
That's I'm glad you brought that up because
Yeah.
sometimes people still ask us and they get annoyed by it, but we'll reiterate. Sometimes people say, whether leave a comment, why do you guys always say your sources says this, your sources say that? we know you have good sources. You don't have to like. They think we're trying to pat ourselves on the back. No, when we say that, we're clearly trying to distinguish what we are hearing, right, versus our own analysis and speculation based on just being reporters and having good reporter instincts. So what I was saying was on good reporter instincts and what I've seen in the past. So that was standing. All right, Devontae Smith. The big thing for him in the offseason is simply to put on weight, right? I don't know, just get a little, not a lot of weight, just get stronger like you naturally would.
I wonder with his frame, because he's somewhere around 170 pounds. He might be less than that. Deshaun, it took him many years, but last time I saw him up close, I was, Rams camp this past summer.
Mm-hmm.
When the Cowboys came in, I was like, his legs filled out. He used to have pencils, for legs.
Yeah.
But no, he filled out. I mean, I'm sure he's only 170 something, but maybe 175. But he was in the low 160s when he was drafted, low to mid. Mm-hmm. Maybe he's even 180, but nevertheless, you're right, absolutely right. He's got to put weight on. And let's get to Quez Watkins.
Okay.
Because I've gone over this quote 100 times. And I should have what I wanted to do, because here's Sirianni's quote. I think out of the number 2 wideouts I've been around in the NFL, who remember now, he's been with Eagles, Colts, Chiefs. I got to look at Chargers, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
He's been around some good players, and Quez Watkins is a interesting player. But to say he could be one of the best number 2s he's been around in the NFL because of skill set and because of his ability to make plays. It's a pretty strong quote. I mean, I know. I think he was around. I gotta say, Chiefs. I remember. I wonder who I don't know if he's with. No, that guy was a.
Did you say the Chiefs? When he was with the Chiefs and Todd Haley, they probably had Dwayne Bowe and
who would have been a 1. Yeah, that's what I was thinking about.
And I'm trying to think who their number 2 would have been.
I'd have to go back.
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. But either way, I mean, they were also, what was that, Tyler Thigpen years, and and who's the other guy that they were running in and out? Oh man.
Well, wait, was
Matt?
James the what's that?
It was Matt Castle.
Matt Castle was the quarter. Well, Matt Castle was under Scott Pioli because he brought him in from New England.
Right.
But this guy never made it. Remember? Do you remember? I think from Florida State, without looking, Marvin Snoop Minnis.
Marvin who?
Snoop Minnis.
Oh, the receiver. Yes.
Yeah, real skinny. He never made it.
No. I remember though, because there were people thought he was going to be good because he was Florida State.
Explosive. Yeah. I'm going to go look up the group because the reason why I think it's a strong quote is you're already saying he can be that guy, like the best number 2 receiver he's ever been around.
Mm-hmm.
It's not okay. He hasn't been around 50 great number 2s, but to say that, I haven't talked to anyone who thinks he's a starting NFL receiver, Quez Watkins. I think he's a nice changeup.
Mm-hmm.
We talked last year about the maturity issue, which has been an issue in the past for him. We'll see. Mm-hmm. Apparently he grew up a little bit this season. He's certainly explosive, but is he that consistent of a route runner? And is his approach that consistent? It's still a very strong quote. I appreciate Sirianni saying stuff like this where he's putting it out there, though. If you're saying it, you got to back it up. We'll see.
The only thing that maybe I can understand from that standpoint is I think he had 647 yards, which for a team that didn't throw the ball a whole lot and had an inconsistent offense, you could maybe make the argument that if he was playing with, I don't know, like an above average passing quarterback, that he would have had 850 to 900. I don't know, a lot, but maybe close to 1,000. I don't know. 650 is actually pretty good on a team that didn't throw the ball a whole lot. So maybe that's he's giving you what he sees in practice every day is a guy who has that kind of ability to, average 15 yards a catch. That was number 1 on the team behind. Yeah,
he can run
Whiteside, but
we saw in training camp. I don't know what happened the first week. I don't know if he was hurt or not ready. There's something was going on the first week. He just wasn't ready.
Right.
And then he got unleashed, and you and I were there. We're like, wow, okay. Now here's the question. And you mentioned this earlier. Do they draft one? Do they sign one? You talk about Allen Robinson. Chark, unfortunately, is coming back from a major injury. Broke his leg, I think. I can't remember. It was a pretty serious injury. In fact, I'll look it up as we speak here. I have all these things. But I love Chark. And I know the Eagles were actually, I have to look this up. I think he was one of the 3 players they were going to draft. It just whatever happened, they went with someone else. but they did really like Chark last year, or whatever when he came out for the draft. I mean, so his injury now, DJ Chark.
Did he come out the year they picked Arcega-Whiteside?
I think he broke his left ankle week, and he went on. He never returned.
Ooh, that's
Urban
rough,
Meyer, I got to tell you, as much as I dislike the guy and have very little respect for him, one of the best coaches I've ever covered. Well, I've been in the league where I've covered the league 21 years. They've given out injury information. Unbelievable. Doesn't hide anything. Would gladly give it out. I chart all this stuff, and I just remember listening to his press conference. I was like, thank you.
Maybe that's why he wasn't a very good head coach. I mean, one of the many reasons.
Right. Well, he's we won't get into that. But, yeah, so, okay, he's a pretty high-character kid. I've talked to people who coached him. It's a great name. He's got size. He could run, too. I think he unfortunately he missed their winning. They had in 2017 where they came out of the blue and made the championship game. But that's a great name. We'll see how it's a broken ankle. It'll be healed by the spring. So
yeah, no, it's an interesting name. He came out in 2018, so he was the year before Arcega-Whiteside was.
Yeah, that's right. I should have known that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. No big deal. Just curious. All right. So anyway, do you? I think we'll see. We'll. I like I said last podcast. Howie Roseman's history since coming back from banishment is to try to address the wide receiver position with bargains, and some have worked. Obviously the one with Alshon and Torrey worked. Mike Wallace did not work out because he kept getting hurt. Deshaun Jackson coming back the second time around did not work out for him well.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Did I, without looking it up, I don't think Wallace played again after he was cut.
No, I don't think he did either.
Whether he's cut or his contract expired, I don't remember. But man, I was so excited when because he had big time juice to run.
Yeah.
And he was so explosive.
Yep.
That's how he made all that money, and he never really lived up to the contract. But man, he was a playmaker, and I was like, this is a good move, based on just a skill set. He just got hurt. Was it against the Bucs? He broke his leg.
It was the second game of the year, right? Because he didn't have. I remember he did not have a very good first game against Atlanta. I mean, Nick Foles had to start that game. It was an ugly game. They won, and then second game he got hurt. Ajayi got hurt. I mean, that just started early that year, man. Everybody was getting.
Well, here's what happened. He had a bad training camp, and I said something on Twitter. He actually responded to it, but he didn't He said, "Hey, man, I know I got to get things going. Have faith."
I remember that. I think
I was like, hey, man, good luck. I don't know him, but I was just kind of like, whoa. But it was true. There's nothing. It was just around the team. That Wallace is not. He just wound up not being. Look, you just go by tape study. The super explosive, good size, by the way.
Yeah.
Just sometimes it just doesn't work out.
Yeah, Kamar Aiken is another guy they had that year who just didn't really add much.
Baltimore and Indy, yeah, sure.
Yep. So then they scrapped that and then went with Deshaun, and then that didn't work out. And then we got to where we're getting Travis Fulghams and JJ Arcega-Whitesides, and then Fulgham has 4 great games, and then that didn't work out. So Howie needs to kind of redeem on the wide receiver. And you could say, well, he got Devontae Smith, but come on, that's the 10th overall pick. It didn't take a genius to see that Devontae Smith was going to be a good wide receiver in the NFL.
No, it didn't. No, every team loved it. But the thing with him was you were taking there's not any risk, but you were like, okay, from a body type standpoint, he's got to put weight on.
Mm-hmm.
See, I still think he'd be a better super high end number 2. Or I'd like to protect him with size. Like I like your point about Chark, who's like somewhere 6'1", 6'2".
Yeah.
Allen
Robinson's got some size.
Yeah, you like him because he's competitive.
Mm-hmm.
He's not underachieved. I just thought he'd be doing better, but again, he got hurt. He's playing with a rookie quarterback anyway. But he had one decent year.
Right.
So here we go. This is easy. We'll get to tight end in a minute. So Devontae Smith signed through 24. Watkins signed through 23. Rager signed through 23. The head coach already said he's their third. Let me ask you this question.
Oh boy.
Well, with Rager,
because
we saw him lining up inside and outside in training camp. I'd have to look at where he lined up in the regular season in terms of snaps, like inside and outside. He could be a dynamic slot. It's to the point now. They got to find a role for him where he could handle it. I thought that would be one.
The only thing is in the slot. Like Nelly, we talked about this last podcast. Nelly is a dynamic slot receiver. It was in 2017. Nelly was a great route runner. That was really never the issue with him. Sometimes, like a guy like Cole Beasley He's a pretty good route runner. I mean, he's got that jiggle and shit. Now Jalen has explosion. I know that people will make fun of that, but he does. I mean, if he gets the ball in his hands and turns upfield with blocking and space, he has explosion. So I don't think he's built to where you turn him into Cordarrelle Patterson. That I don't think that's like what he is.
Well, the angles, it didn't work at all. I mean, or Debo, it did not. I mean, maybe that's where they got the idea. It's a good point because you looked at it. We talked, by the way, on the Cosell ITB TV. Listen to what he has to say about Rager. This will give you. Greg was not wrong. We talked to so many teams before and after the draft. You could only forecast what a guy looks like on tape and what he could be at the next level. If he doesn't, he doesn't become that. You don't have access to the future results. You only have the present, what's presented to you.
Right.
Look, he hasn't. He's been severely disappointed. Let's call it like it is. He's a bit of major disappointment.
But they didn't take a fifth-round prospect in the first round. They took a late first, early second-round prospect who has not worked out so far. So I mean, that's just the reality of it.
I just don't see the explosion. That's the thing that just blows me away. I mean, someone said to me on Twitter, and I don't really have a response to it because I don't know what to make of it. But he goes, well, he went against TCU. He went against a lot of bad teams.
Yeah,
he put up great numbers.
He ran a 4.3 at his school. Like if you have it, you have that. You know what I'm saying?
I didn't know what to say because I just remember what we were told. And even the one of the teams that we said, one of the teams told me that I think you might have been there at that combine, 2020 combine. It was the last one, I think, before they shut it down. Yeah, because 21 they didn't have one. I just remember getting information or whatever it was, 20, whatever the hell, whatever. Yeah, 20. It would have been the 20. You came out in 2020, right? Rager? Yeah.
21.
21, whatever.
I'm sorry, you're right. You're right. 2020. You're correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just remember getting information. I think you might have been there. I think it was Rager, where we had a team tell us before around the combine, mid second round. I'm like, okay. Said real dynamic. I remember this real dynamic. Well built guy, but need to be refined in certain areas. I'm like, yeah, is the guy explosive or not? And everyone said he was, but he sure as heck was not this season. I don't know what happened.
Don't know, but they got to figure it out.
Yep.
So as far as the others, I mean, I would think that I don't know about Arcega-Whiteside. I mean,
There's no way he makes it.
Because he's a good special teamer. I mean, if you but he's not expensive anymore in the last year of his deal, right? I mean,
let me see what he's getting paid.
I guess not, because you're going to want to get younger guys anyway that you think could be a star. I mean, your backups are guys you think can be starters. So I would agree with you.
Just under 1.2 million.
That's still too much.
Yeah, he's just. First of all, you could use a second tight end or third tight end if you want. We'll get to that position in a minute. Or another lineman. It's just ridiculous. That's why he's staying on the roster. Now, if it was special teams value, to me, it's just not worth it. You pull the cord, but unless barks something unforeseen, he'll be in OTAs. I can't imagine anyone would trade for him.
He's going to be a 49er next year. They're going to cut him, and the 49ers are going to sign him, bring him to camp, have him compete. He'll make the team as a 5th or a 6th. He'll be out there blocking on the edges.
Now, Nelly revived his career. He left well with the Eagles. He's done well. He did well for the Raiders. That's why he got a nice contract with the Patriots. I don't think it's going to be a Nelly situation. I don't think JJ Arcega-Whiteside's leaving and becoming a player.
I don't think so either. But I could see him going to like a team that uses perimeter blockers, a lot of crackback block, like Arcega-Whiteside, and he's like their 4th or 5th wide receiver.
But can he be? See, the thing that they thought when they drafted him, at the very least, is he could be used in the red zone because he's 6'2". He doesn't even win in the red zone. That's the thing I just don't understand. Like, how's this guy a second-round pick? And the funny thing is, I thought it was just the Eagles that reached on him. You and I were together. You'll remember, we won't say the team. We laughed at the personnel director. You're like, what? He's like, yeah. Well, no, one of them said they had a priority free agent grade. The other guy said, oh, yeah, we had a low 2, high 3. I'm like, really?
Yeah, that was weird. That you have one team looking at him as a rookie, an undrafted free agent, another guy looking at him as a late 2, early 3.
And that guy had to convince the guy who said priority free agent. I guess he got in an argument with the GM.
Yeah,
you can't do that. He's going to get drafted early. He goes, dude, the tape shows he doesn't run well enough. He's stiff.
Right.
And then the other guy said, oh, we love how he goes after him. Like, see, scouting is an inexact science.
Yes.
It's amazing how teams see players differently.
But also schematically, like I forget who was the one that had him low 2, early 3. Maybe that was one of those offenses where you do have blocking receivers and you thought this guy would be a good red zone target. I don't know. I can't remember, but who knows?
All right, to finish receiver off real quick, Greg Ward's an exclusive rights free agent, so he's not. The Eagles, he has no leverage. They either don't tender him or they tender him. But if they tender him, he'd be restricted the year after. Deion Kane, so they did bring him back for 1 year. I have all the contract information, so he got a 1-year deal to make good. He's got to earn a salary. He doesn't count against the salary cap in the offseason. But this is because of Sirianni. Obviously, he coached him in Indy. We'll see, but that's it. They're really low in guys under contract and just talent. They have to add 2 receivers at a minimum. They need competition, depth, talent. They got a lot of work to do with this position.
Yeah, I agree. Let's also talk about the other pass catchers, the tight ends.
Yes.
This is an interesting. This is a position they may want to do something at in free agency or the draft because, obviously their guy is Dallas Goedert. He showed you what he can do. What Dallas needs to work on, I think you'd agree, is just focus and making the plays that are there to be made because he left too many plays on the field this year.
Drops
late down the stretch there. You can't be dropping balls like that that are wide open. So he's got to work on that. Yeah,
right in the hands. So Jack Stoll's a great find for them. He signed through 2023.
But he should be a number. I feel like he should be your third tight end.
He was okay. So on that, he was signed to be their third. Right. Richard Rodgers, they re-signed him. His contract is for 22. Tyree Jackson's coming off an ACL. You have no idea. No one has any idea how he'll recover. And Togiai re-signed for a year. So these are all back-end guys who are not guaranteed to make the team. You're absolutely right. They have to add another tight end. I would draft one as early as the 3rd round. I wouldn't do second because the problem is when you draft seconds like Goddard, the guy's got to play, and that forces you to be more 12 personnel. You don't want you don't want the coaches to be forced to be a lot of 12 personnel. That's just not the way you do it.
I don't know enough about this group of tight ends, but I would I would only do it if it was you're drafting at a spot where he is clearly heads and shoulders above what you have. Because I don't
That's
like
what I mean. Well, as an upgrade, you mean as an upgrade?
Yeah, absolutely, as an upgrade.
Or let's say, like for instance, the Eagles had 1. I was told on Goddard at the time. And they traded down, and that was the Baltimore trade. So they got him where they got him. He was a 2nd-round pick, but it's no different than anything else. If there's a guy that they had a 1st-round grade on the tight end, and they're drafting wherever, and he's the best player on the tight ends on the board, you take him. But you understand, I guess you got to do it. You got to go by your board. You don't pass up. You don't pass an upgrade over. If this guy's a great number 2, you take him. Right. But I don't like the fact that these coaches have to be forced to play the player. You kind of have to when you do that, but unless
I think you're going to play a decent amount of 12. Even if you're a base 11 personnel team, you're always going to have room for 12. And if you have a really
you always do.
If you have a mismatched tight end, you won't feel compelled or like. What's the word I'm looking for? You won't feel like cajoled to put him on the field. You'll want to put him on the field at certain times just to create some mismatches. So
no, but what I was saying is every team plays 12 and 13. More teams actually don't. The Browns play most 13, but it became that's why the Eagles were number 1 in 12 personnel for I think 2 years straight. Certainly 1. It might have been 2 years straight because they had to account. They're paying Ertz what they're paying him, and they drafted Goddard to take his job. So they had to play both. That's the thing you don't want to force coaches to. I felt bad for Peterson in his last year because they had to play both. You don't have much of a choice, but I think as long as they don't draft a tight end in the 2nd round, then if it's the 3rd, as you say, you're not as compelled to do it.
If they did draft a tight end pretty high, I think that would also be a tell as to kind of building that Raven-style offense that you're going to use the quarterback run, and especially if this tight end that they draft could block and catch, then that they're kind of going in that direction and building around Hurts in that kind of similar style. But obviously, we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, unfortunately, Tyree Jackson with the ACL recovery, I mean, he's going to miss. This was such a key development offseason for him, and he's going to miss pretty much everything. And you hope that he's back by training camp and able to start participating. Togiai, we'll see. He's signed through next year, and he'll be there to compete. He's a guy, he can do some things.
he's a long shot, major long shot to make it because Stoll's ahead of him.
Right.
The only thing for Tyree Jackson is what they were hoping for had he not gotten hurt is to push for a roster spot to put on weight because he's very lanky and he had to block better. He was a willing blocker is what we put out in training camp. Like they were a little bit surprised he was a little bit better than they expected as a blocker, but he had a long way to go. So you're right. You're absolutely right. As we started before we moved to finish off with offensive linemen, they don't really have a 2 right now. Stoll's would be an excellent 3. Rogers is there. He'll compete for roster spot. So I like your thought process. I would expect him to draft a tight end as high as the 3rd.
All right. We will get into the offensive line in a second. First, we want to tell everybody, check out our friends at PHLSportsNation.com, enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams. For the fan, by the fan is their motto. So make sure you're checking out all their great fan content at PHLSportsNation.com and on Twitter at PHLSportsNation. We'll pause real quick for a word from our other great sponsors, including our friends at Sky Motor Cars. And if you happen to stop into Sky Motor Cars out there in Westchester, PA, make sure you tell them Adam and Geoff sent you. You'll get a great deal. All right, as we finish off here with the offensive line, Adam, I think it's fascinating because they have a real kind of, I don't want to call it a dilemma. I mean, it's great to have an embarrassment of riches at the position, but if Sam comes back healthy, and Jason Kelce decides he wants to stay and they work it out, what do you do at left and right guard? I mean, I think you and I safely can assume Brandon Brooks is not going to be back. If he was, that would just complicate it even more. But so you've got, if Kelce comes back and Sayamalu comes back, that means you have Sayamalu, Dickerson, and Driscoll, 3 guys for 2 spots, left guard and right guard. I'm leaving Landon Dickerson, me personally, at left guard. I don't know what I'm doing at right guard or what I'm doing with Sayamalu or what I'm doing with Driscoll. That's tough. I don't really want any of those guys as backups. They're all starters. I mean, it's great to have them as backups, but you're not paying Isaac Sayamalu that money on his contract to be a backup.
It's really interesting. So this is a dilemma so there's certain things we absolutely know. Jordan Mailata's your left tackle through 2025. No one's competing against him. This is it. There's nothing else to talk about with him. Left guard, this is where they have the issue. Sayamalu is only signed through this season, 2022. Dickerson is signed through 2024. Dickerson has to start. There's no ifs, and buts. There's no discussion. He started. The question is, as you say, what do you do with Sayamalu? Is he going to compete for the center job if Kelce doesn't come back? What do they do? Because he's a valuable guy, but he's been hurt a lot. Good player, great find for them. Great story. One of the first scoops we had in 2018 when we first started the show was because people were, if you remember, through the Super Bowl year, he had not progressed and they were kind of down on him. He had a phenomenal 2018 offseason, maybe one of the best of any player.
Right.
And I remember saying, don't sleep on this guy. I'm telling you, he's going to have a shot to start or play a lot.
He's a good player now.
Yeah, solid. Yeah, solid. The question was, as we move this along, is he seen as the future at center, or is Dickerson? Would you leave Dickerson at guard? Would be my question.
I am leaving Dickerson at left guard. I love having Landon Dickerson and Jordan Mailata. And what is that about? God, that's got to be like 650 pounds of man on the left side.
Do you know what someone else said this? I heard. What did I hear? Was it the radio or something? Someone said the same thing you did. But no, Cosell said that. He goes, Eagles have one of the best left sides in the league. They got 700 pounds of man. It's laughing. Where did I hear that before?
It's a hell of an advantage, I got to say. I mean, I don't know if you can get a better advantage of that. I mean, and it's not just big, fat, slovenly, man. These guys are like Adonises, man. They're built really well. They're athletic. They jump out into the second level. I mean, they're fantastic. And I've always thought that, well, I haven't seen enough of Dickerson. I'm sure he can be a good center. He's played it before. But Sayamalu, to me, is the more fleet of foot athlete. The guy who I think he's got a little bit better of a hip pivot and a rotate, and that works better at center. In fact, he projected at center. I remember we thought when he was drafted 4 years ago, he was going to replace Kelce someday at center. So to me, it makes sense to do that. But the coaching staff could just feel that it's, Landon Dickerson's such a field commander and he's Reed's defense is so great and makes calls that you'd want him at center. I don't know. I mean, honestly, I think you're in a win-win situation. The thing with Seumalo, Adam, is his health, and you just said it. He has a year left on his deal. All right, just this coming year is his last year, and he has struggled to stay healthy. And I don't know, does that make him like kind of trade bait? If you think that you're pretty confident with Driscoll, you're very confident with Dickerson, and you're probably going to wind up drafting another lineman anyway with all your picks because that's what the Eagles do. I don't know. To me, it makes it interesting.
Okay, so here's a story with him. So you talk about injuries. Yeah, it's unfortunately became a full-time starter in 18 for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
He missed 3 games. He's had one full season. It was 2019. 2020, he missed 7. This past season, 13. That's
a lot.
Yeah, it's not good. Now, the only thing I would say from a positive standpoint with all that is his contract is very tradable in terms of money.
Mm-hmm.
Just under $5 million, $4.978 million. That's not a lot of money for a quality starting guard with positional versatility in terms of playing guard and center.
To take a 4th-round pick for him?
Well, I would only do that. See, here's the problem. This is how this all tied in. The Eagles have the best depth in the NFL. There's no question. There's no denying that. It's a fact. And the thing is, other than Dillard, who doesn't have versatility, almost all of them have versatility.
Mm-hmm.
So that really helps him. Now, Isaac turns 28. Actually, no, he turns 29. 29 in October. So you have to ask yourself, since his contract voids in 23, if you're not going to bring him back, you might as well look to trade him. We don't obviously they're not thinking that way, but right now, but because of his injury history, to me, you make a great point. This has got to be a discussion.
Yeah,
for them.
You're not going to sign him long term because you already have the starters. You have his replacements already on the roster, and then not only that, they've played well. And if you only have him for a year, and you can get decent trade, because usually if you only have a year left and it's a team friendly price, that helps you get a better value back in trade. So, I mean, I suppose if he was at 2 or 3 years at a better price, it would be great value because then a team knows it can have him at great value for a long term. But I still think maybe you can get whatever you have to consider it. I mean, I'm not saying they pick up the phone and shop him, but teams are always looking for offensive linemen, so they're naturally probably going to get a call. I think it would be interesting.
Yep.
I think you have to consider all your options there.
Hang on a second. Why is someone calling me?
Come on. Don't they know that we're recording Inside the Birds? But anyway, they have to consider all their options is what I would say there. And it's good that they have all these options to consider. And by the way, I mean, you don't even have to worry about it because not only do you have a guy like Jack Driscoll, but LaRaven Clark is under contract for next year. Jack Anderson, who they like and who played well in that season finale against Dallas. Nate Herbig is someone who's come in and given them valuable reps. And Sua Opeta.
That's what I mean.
It's crazy, man. It's amazing how many guys they have that can play a little bit in the NFL.
So Dillard is signed just through the season. So I can imagine he'd be here past the draft, just based on the fact that he's not going to be a starter.
Right.
He's still young enough. He's put good tape together finally, but he doesn't have positional versatility, which they love, and that actually hurts them to get a third. Which is other teams told me that was the Eagles never put a value. We were told they never put a true value on him, but the teams that we talked to that talked the Eagles about Dillard, their sense was that they would not take anything less than a third for him because the Eagles really value depth, and I have to give them credit. They just we know that they know that the way you win is by having an offensive line that's got versatility and talent.
Right.
So here you go. Brandon Brooks, let's go to the right side. Brandon Brooks is signed through 24. They have to try to move him. If they can, as you said earlier, you can't imagine he'd be on the football team one way or another. Lane Johnson, he's got 87 dummy years. Never structured his contract. I got a full copy of his. It's just comical. Like it's not even worth it. I'm not joking. I think it voids, and I think the voids go to 2029 through all these goddamn.
Oh, that's great.
I look at it. I'm like, what the hell? I've never seen anything like this.
What comes first, the end of Lane Johnson's contract in dummy years, or the end of the pandemic?
Oh gosh, oh man, I hope the pandemic. But yeah, let me see. The dummy years. Yeah, there's there's a back end salary of 2028. I don't understand that, but yeah, it basically it voids. Okay, it voids after 28.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, no, I'm sorry, the voids go through 28. It's just ridiculous. Lane, I'll tell you what, Lane is a good soldier to keep doing this for the team. He doesn't have to. Obviously, they've stood by him,
Yeah.
for everything, but they've had a great relationship. And a Eagles Hall of Fame player, and he's so good. Who knows how if he becomes an NFL Hall of Famer or a Pro Football Hall of Famer? But so to move this along here, the Raven Clark now they signed him through this season, 22. Remember, he signed a 1-year extension technically because his contract expired at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So your guy Jack Driscoll, who's been an incredible find. This is a Jeff Stoutland special here, man. This guy is a backup right tackle, guard. Ideally, like him as your sixth lineman. I wouldn't rule out anything here because he could play. Also, it's a long shot, but they have not ruled out him competing for the center job. That's how gifted he is.
Wow.
And here's a little nugget we got. Awushika, of all I think he was the only one. I'm not positive. I know most got through 2022 for the reserve future contracts. They got him through 2023, and there's a reason. They love this kid because he's not tall. He's 6'3", doesn't have the longest arms in the world, but his practice tape apparently is really good, and they really want to take a long look at him.
Mm-hmm.
So, obviously he's got to make the team to honor that contract, but if he does, he's signed through 2023.
I think that there's only 2 offensive linemen I can think of who just never played well since Jeff Stoutland became head coach. Think about how many offensive linemen they've gone through.
Line
Just
coach,
offensive line coach. 2, and
Called
one
him
would be Chance Warmack, who amazingly he coached at Alabama.
Yeah.
And the other would be the guy last year. Who was that guy that was so awful? Jamon Brown. Remember?
Oh, Jamon. That was 2 years ago. Yeah, 2, 3.
Was it 2? No, it was, well, I mean, yes, two seasons ago. Yes, correct.
And he was a good player many years ago. But yeah, another guy. What is it with these guys? For some reason, like these guys, it's like they come to Philly and their careers are over.
I don't know, but those are like the only 2 guys who I can say just looked awful. Even Matt Pryor had some good moments. It's not like he was always bad. He had some bad moments.
Matt Pryor,
good
by the way, Matt Pryor started for the Colts this year.
Yeah.
Past year.
Yes, he did. Amazing. So, I mean, Vaitai went on and
yeah, he got a great $10 million a year. Big V.
Yeah, he did.
Played well this past season, by the way.
Sure. All right, so that's it. That's our look at the O-line. I mean, they're stocked there, and I said,
Jack Anderson, just real quick. Jack Anderson,
right?
He's competing for a backup job. He's signed through 22. Suopeta signed through 22. Brett Toth signed through 22. You mentioned Nate Herbig is a restricted free agent.
Mm-hmm.
That's the question before you get out of here. Do they tender him? He's been very valuable. You would think the low tender, if anything.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have more notes about him in a couple weeks about what they're thinking as we'll find out. But you nailed it, man. Deepest O-line on the National Football League. Versatility. It's just an amazing job that the front office has done. They got to get Rob receiver right. They haven't. They've missed Bailey there for the most part. Though Quez Watkins is a nice find for them as a 6th-round pick. But I've never seen a team. Listen, that's why they're always competitive. Other than 2020, that was because of injury.
Right.
More about injury, but when you get it right on both lines, man, you got a chance to compete.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. I think when you look at why the Eagles won 9 games this year, it's because of the offensive line and the defensive 100%. Line. There's no question about it.
One guy had a bone to pick with you about that they weren't better than 2020.
I didn't say that. Of course, they were better.
Sorry, misquoted you.
What I said was, and I did the exercise with you. If you wrote down the 5 biggest questions at the end of that year, and then the 5 biggest question mark positions at the end of this year, they're the same.
Well, no, there aren't any questions at O-line, though. They're not anymore.
Well, that wasn't a question really at the end of last year. I mean, you knew guys were going to come back healthy and
yeah, but you didn't know Mailata would be this great. They didn't have Dickerson.
No, but you didn't think that they were going to go out and draft a left tackle or pick up in free agency a left tackle.
They also have better depth. They have better. Their O-line is 10 times better than it was the year before. Because of injury, yes.
Yeah.
But who knew Kelsey could be this spectacular? And remember now, they lost Driscoll, Brooks. Who else did they lose? Anyone? They lose
Sayamalu.
Yeah, Sayamalu, right? He still kicked ass.
And Brett Toth at the in the season finale with I think he tore his ACL, right? So he's going to be out for quite a while.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, next episode we will do the defense and get into the thick and the thin of that. And that's going to do it for this edition of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles Intel. Big thanks, of course, to our producer, Hunter Brody. Check out his work on YouTube. His channel is called Sports Talk with Broads. His website, broadsmedia.com. And as always, we thank you, except for those who are taking my words out of context. No, I'm just kidding. We thank you guys too. And we thank all of you for flying with us inside the bird.